Hi, it's Witness again. This time I have a guide on the Guardian of the Phoenix boss fight done as my Explosive Arrow Pathfinder. Like the Chimera fight, I will explain the general mechanics of the fight as much as I possibly can from this experience, and hopefully this will give some helpful tips on how to do the fight. This character is no different than the one I used in the Chimera fight. I only added a fire flask instead of Taste of Hate since I assume most of the damage is going to be fire as opposed to physical. It's still single curse, still the same tree I had back then, and it can be optimized to be better. And I still didn't remove Frostwall from my setup for whatever reason. Things to consider while doing this fight. This is my first time doing any of these fights. I knew this boss could not be ignited and had already gone through and switched out chance to ignite for elemental focus on my single target setup. Burn damage is a giant source of damage for this character. The map mods in this map give 27% more life to monsters and gain power charges. This makes the fight incredibly long compared to other Guardians. With all my weird testing in this fight, it took me about 14 minutes to down this boss. It could be cut down much faster, but it's still going to be the longest boss fight for this character out of all the Guardians. But the thing about this boss is that it's actually not hard, it's just time consuming for this build. This run was deathless, and I will edit it down to save you some time. The boss is fairly straightforward, there are no different phases of attacks, but the fight gets potentially more dangerous as you lower the boss's life. But once you've gotten used to his movements, it's more of a routine than anything. When you enter the arena, the Phoenix will be on the other side from the exit and will aggro you when you get near him. The Phoenix itself has very few attacks and isn't very fast. Aside from running at you, the way it will close its distance is doing a spinning melee attack that has an obvious charge up time. Move out of the way and you can avoid it. This and a combination of regular auto attacks are generally what it does for melee. The only other thing he has is an obvious discharge that takes a while to build up. When you're in range of the explosion, a debuff icon will appear on top of you. It will last about 5 seconds, even when you move out of the way. Strangely, towards the end of this fight, I did take one of the discharges and survived it with a bit more life than I expected. It should have actually done way more damage than I was anticipating. And I didn't have any flasks up when this happened. I have no idea what this debuff actually does. I know it just lasts 5 seconds. When you fight this Guardian, you'll notice a debuff with a counter on top that increases as the fight goes on. As far as I can tell, every 10th of the Guardian's health, a giant circle will emit out of it that goes across the arena and will increase the counter by 1. For each of these, the player will lose -1 maximum fire resistance. This means by the time it's at the 10% mark for culling range, you will have 66% fire resistance if you had the base maximum of 75 to start with. This is an arena effect. I logged out to test to see if it gets removed or reapplied. Outside of the boss zone, you don't have this debuff, but as soon as you enter in, it will be reapplied and will keep the counter that it had before. This boss does have its adds. A firebird that of some kind appears. Not sure what this has to do with the Phoenix. It will do projectile attacks at you. The projectiles are pretty slow and easy to dodge. They're not huge damage and the birds are easy to kill. It starts out with just one bird that keeps respawning 5 seconds after you kill it. But the number of birds increases as the fight goes on and the counter goes up for the debuff. Each bird has its own timer, so if you kill all of them at the same time, they'll come back at the same time 5 seconds after you've killed them. If you kill them separately, they'll pop up one after the other. They're great for refilling flasks later in the fight. And aside from all that, there are fire tornadoes that appear for 3 seconds and disappear. The number of these will also increase as the fight goes on. They just hit you, so it's easy to avoid them. Their hitbox is kind of strange. I've ran into a lot of them and they had no effect on me, but occasionally I would get hit by one. It seems to occur mostly when it's starting to appear as opposed to when it's dying down. it could possibly be blocked by rear guard. It's not a degen as far as I can tell. It's just an actual hit from the tornado. And it didn't seem like it hit rapidly. One thing to keep in mind in my footage is that I'm a Pathfinder with Master Alchemist. If a flask is up, it means I'm immune to ignites, so that any that occurred during this fight didn't occur to me. As far as I can tell, there isn't any significant source of degen in this fight at all. Tips for this fight on my build. Well, I feel like this build lucked out that one of the guardians that's the most annoying to fight is actually one of the easiest in terms of mechanics and damage. He's easily to decoy around and is much slower than the Chimera. I would not recommend you do this fight with extra life or enfeeble though. It makes the fight unnecessarily long at that point. However, this is a map where rolling immunity to status ailments doesn't actually mean anything, because you usually only care about that for the boss. This fight is too long for Vingtars or Val Lightning Trap to help you out a huge amount. During my time with this fight, I tried two methods of fighting it. One is using the single target arrow, stacking the 5, cursing, waiting for the explosion, and repeat. And the other is to try to decoy him to the entrance wall and using the overlap of GMP explosives to take him down. After judging the two ways of fighting for a while, I found that attacking the wall is too inconsistent for it to be of much use. His positioning changes depending on what attack he does. There might be a case if you have full flask to start taking the hits at the beginning of the fight and standing next to the wall yourself. I would suggest you also bring in a culling strike for this fight to make it easier for yourself. At the 9 counter, you'll know that you're in range for a cull. At the 8 counter, you can probably bring in a Slayer to just finish the job. Despite the adds in this fight, you don't really need to switch to the GMP setup at all during this fight, because you can kill the Phoenixes with the explosion of one arrow. They tend to group up together in the center and will reappear in the same spot they died in. You could also consider using Essence Worm with Purity of Fire in it to increase the maximum fire res that you have to lessen the debuff effect from the counter. Anyway, I hope this helps you out on this encounter. Next up will be the Minotaur fight, and after that the Hydra. Until then, good luck out there.